Hello, Holy Trinity family. I've just finished walking 8 days on the Camino de Santiago, starting in the impossibly picturesque village of Osabrera and ending here in Santiago de Compostela, specifically at this iconic cathedral, Santiago. And I knew I was going to be giving a reflection right after this pilgrimage and thought, oh, I'm going to have so much material and it's going to be so rich, but I actually have very few fully formulated thoughts about the meaning of this pilgrimage as it relates to the gospel. I mean, of course, there's the obvious that walking the way is a chance to be inspired by St. James, the apostle, who, legend has it, brought the gospel as far as Spain, and then after being martyred back in Rome, his remains were brought back and buried here. Why this town is called Santiago is St. Diego, St. James. It's named after him. So when I joined other pilgrimages behind the altar in this beautiful cathedral where his bones, what we believe to be his bones, are housed in a silver reliquary, and where above that there's this huge statue of him where you can pass by and touch it, I did actually feel like I heard his message. I heard a little message, go spread the gospel. But there is nothing that original about that. So let me try to share what I hear as good news from today's gospel according to Matthew, which begins with Jesus saying, love your enemies. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. He makes his sun rise on the bad and the good, and he causes the rain to fall on the just and the unjust, and it is starting to rain here in the square. Jesus then goes on to challenge his disciples, and one of them was James, brother of John, one of the sons of Zebedee. And Jesus said, if you only love those who love you, or you only greet your brothers, what's so great about that? Anyone can do that. Be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect, and love your enemies. So, walking along the Camino with people like this that you see here in the square, and it's very sparsely populated right now because it's almost sunset, 10 o'clock at night. But those of you who've been on the Camino know that you greet every single person with Buen Camino, Buen Camino, not just your brother or your daughter, who I happen to have been traveling with. And no one is your enemy. Even if you might kind of feel a particular person is annoying, or you don't want to spend a day walking alongside, talking to them, what happens on the Camino is strangers become friends. And the word enemy comes from the Latin, in amicus, meaning not friend. Inimicus, that became enemy in Old French. And so, though enemy is a very real phenomenon now in our world and our nation, I like the idea that Jesus is saying, make everyone your friend. Love even those who are not your friends. And it's so lovely the way this happens so naturally on the Camino. As Paul says in his letter to the Ephesians, and I'm sorry, it's not our reading for today, therefore, you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints. So, you know, it might be true that Jesus didn't have siblings, as the Catholic Church teaches, and he wasn't married with children. That's our teaching. So, if that's the case, easy for him to say, hey, anyone can greet their brother or their daughter. Anyone can love someone close to them. Love others, even your enemy, perfectly like that. But the problem is we don't love the people closest to us perfectly. In fact, this idea of perfection that can really mess things up when it comes to how we love those who are closest to us. When a not friend shares a struggle or a problem, we can sometimes find it easier to relate, to be kind, to encourage than we can at times for our own beloveds. And so maybe I shouldn't say we, maybe I should say I. I think it's hard for me to see the people I love most struggle. And in my anxiety to ensure their well-being, a message is picked up by them that I don't love the struggling person, only the, quote, perfect version. And so this concept of perfect gets tossed in. And so here are my Camino thoughts about what it might mean for me or anyone I love to be perfect as our Father is perfect. And this is not a new idea, but it's been clarified for me on these past 8 days. Perfect means complete. Complete. It doesn't mean without flaw. And so to love and be loved completely is to in no way imply that love is conditioned upon a person having no flaws or no struggles. And likewise, when we're loved completely, it's all of us that is loved. Now, this is incredibly difficult because of course, our families are the people, and I've shared this with you all before, who we want to know are loved completely. So I might have shared this story before. My 7-year-old, who's now 32, we were at a school mass, and the priest said, "Be perfect, like Mary is perfect." And like Mary, the Mother of God, is perfect. So on the way home from school, I was a little disturbed. I said to Brian, "Hey, Brian, what does it mean to be Christian? Does it mean to be perfect, or does it mean to be forgiven?" And without missing a beat, he said, "Perfect." And so I knew in my gut something was being lost in translation. And this is what I think happens in the ways we love those closest to us. Something gets lost in translation. When we want to try to heal the hurts and help them recover from whatever it is that weighs them down, we communicate that they aren't wholly and completely loved. But God is able to love us so well, so perfectly and completely well, that we can have sorrow for our failings and still feel completely loved. I felt this way when I went to confession here at this cathedral. Just yesterday, I confessed how imperfectly I love. And in that confession, I felt enveloped, even in my imperfection, in a full and complete embrace of God that took all of me in. And of course, the priest that I shared this with was a perfect stranger to me. But now, like others that I've met on the Camino, I've made a not my friend into a friend. And so let's keep loving each other like that. See you back in DC.